What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be checking out the worst punishments they will use today.
Let's start with the bad and slowly work our way towards the stuff of nightmares. Number
Okay.
8, the wooden cane. Many countries today still punish criminals by tying them up and whipping them. But just to make matters worse, it's often done in front of their peers and loved ones. In countries
Wow.
like
Like, imagine getting your ass whooped in front of your kids. Man, that's the most embarrassing thing on this earth.
Singapore, criminals convicted of violent crimes or vandalism can still be sentenced to judicial caning. Here, the criminal's bent over and has their ankles and wrists tightly strapped to a large wooden trestle. Before the criminal becomes a piñata, the cane is first soaked in water for a few hours, making it a lot more flexible and primed for whipping. The man who carries out the punishment is a highly trained officer, trained to deliver each strike with maximum force and precision.
Imagine going to training and just like, yo, what are you training for? I'm training so that I can be like well equipped with the skill of whipping people's asses.
After each strike, there's a long pause, just to make sure the criminal feels every bit of pain that is humanly possible before the
crazy.
next powerful strike is delivered. The
Yo, but bro, why are they animating the guys who's getting the beats face like that? That's crazy.
severity of the crime dictates how many strikes the criminal receives, but it can be as many as 24. Criminals are typically left bleeding with deep wounds and permanent scarring, leaving them with a lifelong reminder of the hellish punishment they once received. Number 7, the White Room. There's a room so terrifying that it strikes fear into even the most hardened criminals. It's
Okay.
simply known as the White Room. Inside Evin
happens?
prison in Iran, there's a small, all-white isolation cell where the bright overhead lights never turn off, and all outside noise and human contact cease to exist. This punishment begins with the criminal being dressed in all white before being thrown into a completely soundproof, all-white cell. The bed, walls, floors, and even the plate and food they receive are all white. But it gets even worse. The guards outside the cell wear cushioned shoes to silence their steps, ensuring the prisoner never hears a single sound from the outside world. You see, the color white wasn't chosen at random. White
Why?
eliminates contrast, depth, and visual reference points. And since the brain doesn't get any stimulation from the outside world, it begins to create its own, tormenting the prisoner by spawning in vivid hallucination and noises that are not really there. And because the lights never turn off, prisoners lose their sense of time, not knowing whether it's been days, weeks, or even months that have gone by. There have been reports of prisoners remaining in this cell for up to 8 months, with some claiming that even after leaving, they have never been the same since.
Yeah, like once your brain is desensitized from reality, bro, when you get back out, it's gonna take some time, you know, to get back into it.
Number 6, amputation. Amputations are still used in countries like Iran,
What?
Yemen, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia, and are typically reserved for thieves. For example, in Saudi Arabia, thieves can still be punished by amputation of the
Like, bro, I heard a story about this type of punishment before, like where they ask you, like, would you want a long sleeve or a short sleeve? And when you choose like long sleeve, they're going to cut like your hand right here at your wrist. But when you choose short sleeve, they're going to cut it right here. And I was thinking to myself, like, what's the difference, bro? Whether you get a long sleeve or a short sleeve. The most important thing is this part. Once it's cut off, yeah, you're done for.
hand, while armed robbers receive a little extra, having their hand and the opposite foot amputated. Now, before you get the wrong idea, these countries do sometimes take it easy on criminals and just amputate the fingers instead, which is exactly what is done in Iran. In
Bro, do they even give you anesthesia before cutting off your limbs or your hands off?
2025 alone, at least 3 thieves had the fingers on their right hands amputated. The punishment uses a guillotine-style machine, just a lot smaller. Here, prisoners are blindfolded, handcuffed, and restrained. The hand is tied in place with the fingers pointing out. As soon as the sign is given, the lever
Why is that like an LGBTQ sign? Like, but bro, do they actually do this type of like punishment? Bro, that's gotta like be painful. And once they are done chopping your hands off or your fingers off, do they give you like some sort of like painkillers or anything like that to deal with the pain?
is released, and the blade slams down on the person's hand, easily
Ugh.
removing the criminal's fingers.
That's
They are
crazy.
then quickly stitched up if they're lucky, and sent back to their prison cells to walk it off. Number 5, castration. In countries like South Korea, Poland, and Indonesia, anyone who's convicted of being inappropriate with children can be sentenced to chemical castration. This punishment typically begins after the criminal has served their sentence, and right
I feel like they gotta introduce this type of law in a country where there's a lot of pedophiles.
before they are set to be released from prison, where they will receive the first of many injections to drastically lower their testosterone and libido. The more severe the crime, the longer the castration period. Now, being injected so often does carry some side effects, but realistically, nobody cares. But in countries like the Czech Republic, castration is taken even further. High-risk criminals who continue committing heinous crimes can be
Like, why does
permanently
bro look like Megamind? Yo, that's a hella big brain.
castrated. From 2000 to 2016, over 84 surgical castrations were carried out. But in recent years, the numbers have
Why?
plummeted. After heavy international pressure, the law was changed. Today, they still perform permanent castrations, but are now only given to criminals who volunteer.
Like, who? What kind of mad criminal would volunteer to be castrated, bro? I'm not doing that. Even if like I commit the most heinous crimes, I'm not even accepting that. Like, why would you give a criminal an option to volunteer for something you know very well they're not going to like accept?
Number 4. An eye for an eye. In Iran, the victim or their family can request an equivalent punishment
Like, why is Iran popping up in every like punishment so far on this list?
for their attacker. This means they can request a life for a life, an injury for an injury, or in this case, an eye for an eye. The act of blinding someone as a form of punishment has been carried out a few times in recent years, with the most recent 3 cases occurring in 2022. Surprisingly, many of the cases were very similar.
Oh, that's crazy. That's so recent. 2022? Yo, if this law was maybe accepted in worldwide, bro, in the jail cells, they would have like an amputation ward. It would be like a horror movie.
Person, for one reason or another, decided to throw acid on someone, causing the innocent person to lose their eyesight. The victim or their family can then legally request the same punishment for the attacker. It all begins with the person being restrained and having their eye or eyes held open. Acid is then dropped into the eyes, permanently blinding them.
But I don't have... That's crazy. I don't have anything against doing this, but one thing I have in mind, or one question I have, the people who are doing these punishments, what happens to them? Do you give them some sort of drug? Because at the end of the day, you are human. And what do you have to do to take the humanity out of someone? Because to be able to do this, you gotta be a robot or something. You gotta not be human. I feel like once you have done so much punishments, you know, like these type of punishments, when you get home or when you're alone, you start going crazy. You might start being a weirdo, to be honest.
Are administered by authorities, but the victim can request to do it themselves.
Oh, I get it.
As long as they can still see. The injury is then verified by authorities, and the attacker is sent back to prison to serve the remainder of their sentence.
That's crazy.
Number 3, pushed off a cliff. This is one of the most disturbing and strangest punishments in the world. In Iran, criminals can still
why
be
is Iran like dominating this list, bro? Like, this is not punishments, bro. This is like murder. Throwing someone off a cliff?
sentenced to be thrown from a height. Now, as bad as that sounds, it only gets worse. Here, the criminal is taken to the top of a cliff, then placed inside a sack. The sack is tightly sealed, and both the sack and the criminal are thrown off the cliff. But here's the twist. In the extremely unlikely event that the man survives the fall, he would then be freed from the sack, only to be hanged instead. A few men in recent years have been sentenced to receive this punishment. One man in 2002...
Like, how recent is this? Oh, 2002? Do they still do this in Iran? Bro, that's crazy.
And 2 in 2008. The punishment is incredibly rare and is only given to those who commit truly heinous crimes. Even though these 3 men were sentenced by a judge to be thrown off a cliff, I can't 100% confirm they were actually thrown, since Iran ranks amongst the most heavily censored countries in the world, and this information is not easy to come by. Either way, the punishment is incredibly terrifying and not one you would ever want to receive.
Like,
Number
even
2,
though like the country is highly censored, but there's no smoke without fire. So this might be true.
capital punishment. Now, I could bore you and walk you through all the standard capital punishments that are used around the world, like lethal injection, firing squads, the electric chair, and hangings. But instead, I'm going to cover some of the most strange and terrifying variations of these executions that are still used in parts of the world. In Saudi Arabia, criminals who commit murder or drug-related crimes can still be sentenced to be beheaded with a sword. Here, the criminal is kneeling on the floor with their arms tied behind their back. Their head is then leaned forward as the person trembles and waits for the executioner to strike. As soon as the signal is given, the executioner swings with all their might and hopefully removes the head on the first go.
This is something that we see in movies, bro. I never thought like there was punishment like this, or never thought it would be true for this type of punishment. I know they gotta be doing this on purpose, bro, because you cannot chop someone's head off with a blunt blade. You know, they do it on purpose so that like they can inflict the most pain. Because if it wasn't done on purpose, you know, that blade would have been sharp as a motherfucker and it would cut through your head in one single go.
Of course, this is all done in front of a crowd, ensuring they get punished with severe PTSD as well. Then there's China, where execution vans deliver lethal injections directly to a person's front door. On arrival, criminals are apprehended and placed inside the van. They are then quickly strapped down and given a lethal cocktail injection. It's estimated that around 8,000 people have been executed in one of these vans, but the real number remains a mystery since the program is covered in secrecy. Then there's hanging executions. Some countries still use the more humane method, the long drop, which instantly breaks the neck and causes unconsciousness. This method obviously requires a math formula to get right. Too short of a fall, the neck remains intact and the person hangs there and slowly chokes. Too long of a fall, and it becomes a beheading, and a very messy and annoying cleanup. But in countries like Iran, the math problem is simply tossed in the trash, and instead they use a method called the short
What's
drop,
that?
which is a lot more cruel and vicious. But hey, at least no one could ever say they're bad at math. Here, the criminal is rigged to a crane with their arms tied behind their back and is then slowly lifted a few inches off the floor. As the criminal panics and kicks, the rope tightens, and eventually, within minutes, the person passes out and stops
Like,
moving.
bro, that's gotta be one of the hardest way to go, because like your brain is telling you like we are a few feet off the ground, reach for the ground and maybe we can survive, because your brain is designed to find ways to survive. You trying to reach for the floor or the ground and you're not able to reach it. Yo, bro, that must be a terrible way to go. I cannot wish that upon anyone, even my worst enemy, bro.
Number 1. Stoned to death. Easily the harshest and most cruel punishment in the world has to be stoning.
Do they still do this? Because I remember like in the Bible, people used to do this. That's when I sort of like started knowing about this type of punishment. But do they still do this to this day?
This punishment has occurred in Nigeria, Somalia, and Iran in recent
Bro,
years.
Iran on this list, bro. Why is Iran dominating this list?
With Iran being the only country where stoning still exists in law as a punishment for adultery. The most recent
But
uses
like,
of this
bro said Iran was censored and you cannot get enough information from like Iran. So how is he getting all this information? Because Iran seems to be on every list of punishments that he made.
This punishment actually came from angry mobs in Nigeria in 2020 and 2022, and before that, a militia group in Somalia in 2014 and 2018.
Bro, they dig you a pit and then they just cover you up to your neck, bro, and then they stone your head. Bro, whoa, that's gotta be crazy. Some people have the most diabolical evil minds. You gotta think like they're the devil's daughters and sons.
I'll quickly cover these before I move on to Iran. In both cases in Somalia, a judge within the area's militia
Why does
group
the judge
sentenced
look
the
like that? Is that Killer Bean?
women to be stoned to death for adultery. The women were buried up to their shoulders with only their heads exposed and then stoned to death by the militia group. All of this was done in front of the townspeople.
God.
The Nigeria incidents were very similar to one another as well. In 2020, a man accused of blasphemy was chased and stoned to death at a fish and vegetable
Like
market.
blasphemy, going against what?
But wait, it gets even darker. It's reported that even the local
That's
children
Chucky.
picked up stones and took part in the execution.
What?
Then a few years later, in 2022, a woman was attacked by a mob and stoned to death at a college for the same reason. But let's talk about Iran, since they officially have stoning as a form of punishment. From 1980 to 2009, there were roughly 150 people, mostly women, convicted of adultery who were condemned to stoning, with the latest sentences taking place in 2017 and 2022. The punishment begins with the woman being buried up to her chest, or the waist if it's a man. Officials then gather around the person with stones in hand, and as soon as the signal is given, they begin to throw
Bro.
them. But here's the catch. If the person manages to escape from the hole, and only if they had confessed to adultery, they could earn their freedom. In the second scenario, if the person manages to escape but were caught committing adultery, they are placed back in the hole for round 2. As someone who's extremely competitive, yeah, I'm beginning to think this might be a little unfair for the women.
Like, bro, how can you even get out? These people won't even give you a chance to get out because stones will be storming from every single direction, bro. But yeah, I'm kind of baffled that some of these punishments still exist to this day. But yo, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe, and go ahead and watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.